dedicated to the only serious choice, the gospel of Jesus Christ in music and the spoken word. You're watching Light Source Victory Television live with me, your host, Pastor J. Stan McCauley, inviting you to sit back and relax for the next 55 minutes or so as we continue our journey into the life-changing, life-giving, everlasting word of the Most High God. My friends, it is indeed time for the most important hour of the day, Bible study. Now, of course, it is my Bible study time that I spend with you. We try to do it each and every Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday night right here on accesstv.org, on Facebook, Pinterest, LinkedIn, X, other social media, YouTube, and such. Broadcasting live from the greatest city on earth, Hartford, Connecticut, New England's rising star. All right. On your screen, the life-changing, life-giving, everlasting word of the Most High God. This is where we will pick it up, stick and stay, listen to the words. Are you a child of the Most High? Do you consider yourself a king's kid? I most certainly hope so. Scott and Johnny White trading lead in the background to Ronnie's songs, King's Kids. Oh, yeah. Kingdom. Are you chosen by God? All right, let's stop. Okay. This is where we were when we were last together, which of course was last time we were together. Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 1. Chapter 3, verse 1. To everything there is a season, a time to every purpose under the heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to get and a time to loose, a time to keep and a time to cast away, a time to rend and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. What profit hath he that worketh in that wherein he laboureth? I have seen the travail which God hath given to the sons of men to be exercised in it. Verses 1 to 11, Ecclesiastes chapter 3. Out of the King James translation. Now let's read this in the Modern English Version, the one we use for this program and teaching purposes, is the New Living Translation. Chapter 3, verse 1, New Living Translation, Ecclesiastes. For everything there is a season, a time for every activity under heaven. Now, the word says that all things work together for good to those who love God, to them that are called according to his purpose. One of my mentors put it this way: God enters into everything to work his, every situation to work his perfect will, right? All things work together for God, right? God enters into every situation to work his perfect will. That would be a better translation. All right. Whatever happens, God enters into it. A lot of times people think that God is causing things to happen. And so they find it very difficult to reconcile what they consider bad things in a way that leaves them thinking that God, caused a plane to crash or a boat to sink or a hurricane to come on shore and kill people. You'll hear people say, well, if there was a God, why doesn't he stop these things from happening? God enters into the situations that happen, and in those situations he works his perfect will for them that look to him for their eternal salvation. I always found it interesting that people who deny the existence of God try to leverage the power, authority, and the omnipresence of God, that if those things are so, he must do stuff on their behalf in their favor, which of course is absurd and ridiculous. God is not a servant for you to command. I would suggest it was the other way around. If there's any servitude necessary to be commanded by someone, it would be me or you, right? Us doing the work that God would command, not the other way around. He's not an elected official, right? Who ran for office to serve you. He is the omnipresent, all-powerful, all-knowing God that speaks, and by his will, once spoken, those things happen. So I like to think in terms of everything that happens in a season. All right. 3 years from now, a seed planted will grow. Its season has come. Fast forward, I don't know how many years, decades, centuries, whatever the case is. That seed that grew into a mighty tree will cease to be. So the season comes when it dies. For all things that happen, there is appointed seasons and times. That is by no means, that one should walk away thinking that I'm saying that God does not command things to happen, whether we think they're good or bad. All things work together for His good, for His purpose, right? But I'm saying that people say that, right? So I'm just throw these things out here for you to think about, right? This is my Bible study time. I like to explore these things. That's what I do here every night with you. All right. Clearly, there's a time to be born, and clearly there is a time to die, right? Everybody that's born has a time. It's appointed time. Your appointed time to be born is now. Some may not get the time to be born, even though one might think that they would. The safest place in the world ought to be in the womb of the mother, but that's another subject for another day. A time to be born and a time to die. Right? There comes a time to die. The Bible says that it's appointed unto a man once to die, after that the judgment. You just don't know when your time is, but it is coming. And nothing anybody do is going to change that. Nothing. Everyone on the planet, with the exception of those that maybe get caught up in the rapture, right? They're translated. They're walking around one day, breathing, talking, and then all of a sudden God calls them and they translate, which referred to as the rapture. Beyond that, right? Mostly everybody on the planet will die. It is the one thing that happens to every human being, but it's the one thing most people are the least prepared for. If people discussed death in a way that was productive, then one would have to seriously consider what happens after you die. Is there something greater than you right now? Is there a God to whom you're going to have to give an account to? Is there a creator to whom you're going to have to give an account to? Or do you just cease to be? Right? Those would be more topics of discussion, because people would think of themselves as being very finite. They're not eternal. So what happens if your life is short-circuited by any number of things? Right? I'm just saying. You put things in proper perspective. So it's appointed unto a man once to die, and then after that the judgment. Our current state of affairs leaves us lacking when it comes to judgment. Will you pass the judgment seat of God? If this is for those of you who don't believe that there's a God, but find yourself watching this program, it's not by accident. All right. So if there is a God, would you pass judgment? And if you believe yes, on what basis? There's a time to plant and a time to harvest. These are just practical things, right? Remember, this is Solomon, who's king. No one was more educated, more wisdom, more experience than he, of all the kings that had come before him, and for the majority of the kings in the region in which he reigned, he was the guy because he would take their stuff, right? And so he sought out to know wisdom, folly, and madness. And this is the account of that exploration. So he's considering the fact that there are times for everything, things that are outside of our control. They just happen. There are times to be born, times to die, time to plant, time to reap a harvest. This is quite relevant for that time in which this is being written. Like there's a time to go shopping, right? In our modern world, because a lot of people don't have to plant in order to eat. They go to the supermarket. They buy what they want, they bring it home, and they eat. Or folk will go out to the Christian chicken joint, right? You all know what that is. That's the Chick-fil-A. So you go to the Chick-fil-A and get your little chicken sandwiches. Or, the new Big Mac that's coming out, the Chicken Big Mac, right? Yeah, 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on the sesame seed bun. So I don't know what they're going to do with the Chicken Big Mac. Are you going to get 2 chicken patties? 1 chicken patty? I don't know. But the Chicken Big Mac is supposed to be coming out. Chicken is a high commodity. People don't grow their own chicken. All right? There's a guy here in Hartford, Travis. He is on YouTube. Well, he's on Facebook. I can't speak to YouTube, but he's on Facebook, and he grows his own food, and you should check him out. He grows his own food. He raises chickens, eggs. I would imagine they're consumed too. I haven't seen that part yet, but I think he does, because he has this thing, I think, where he takes the feathers off the chicken too. But most people don't grow their own food. They don't grow their own livestock, right? But if you grow your own food and you miss the season for planting, and the winter comes, particularly if it's a harsh winter, you could starve to death. We have it so easy in this time in which we find ourselves alive. So easy. Food is abundant here in the United States. It's abundant. It's everywhere. Yet people go hungry, but it's everywhere. You walk in off the street and you can just buy fruit and vegetables and things like that, and it's there. But there's a time to sow, time to plant, right? Time to plant, a time to harvest, time to sow, a time to reap. This is the modern English here. Verse 3, top of the screen, Ecclesiastes chapter 3. Verse 3. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to kill. A time to tear down, a time to build up. Time to cry, a time to laugh. A time to grieve. People need time to grieve. A time to dance. There are occasions in which people go through these moments in life. A time to scatter stones, a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace, a time to turn away, a time to search, and a time to quit searching. A time to keep and a time to throw away. Sometimes it's hard to do some of these. Just plain old practical. All right. Now, if you were to come into my studio, it is really, I guess I could show you. Camera 5 is on. I mean, this is my studio. It's quite messy. Mm-hmm. Lay's potato chips. That's an unopened bag. There's a full prohibition of eating food anywhere except the kitchen. But if I want to have an opportunity to eat that bag of chips, I have to put the chips in my office because my daughters see bags of chips in the pantry as potentially theirs, and they've. But this is my studio. Now I often go to, and you should see the stuff I have in the basement. It doesn't even make any sense. But I could keep stuff. I'm one of those people that could keep stuff. I've had, those storage places where you put stuff. I mean, I've had stuff in the storage place auctioned off. Because there's a time for being broke too. So I've been broke, and down to where there was no money. All right. So what do? You'll pay for the stuff you have. You don't even know what's in the thing, right? So I could keep stuff. I've moved in my younger days out of apartment and just left the whole storage, whatever was in the storage room, just leave it there. I say that to this here, time to throw away. A lot of people won't throw stuff away. They keep everything. Pack rats, hoarders. Keep everything. Let it go. They say if you haven't used something in a year, throw it away. Like if there's stuff in your basement that you have no idea it's even down there, call the junk folk and have them just come and take it. You won't miss it because you don't know it's there. Oh, VHS recorders, folk have all kinds of stuff. It's junk. Let it go. We get attached to things, that becomes almost it's a soft level of, idolatry. You idolize this stuff. The guy at the storage place says people love their stuff, and they will pay their storage fees on time because they know after 2 months it's out. They lock it up, and then the next month it's gone. They auction it. So people they love their stuff. They don't even know what's in the storage locker, but it's something. It means something to them. It has sentimental value. They're attached to it. Attachment, they don't want to lose that attachment, so they pay for it. They'll get behind on their rent, paying for the stuff that they store. That's what the guy at the storage place told me. Very lucrative business because people like their stuff. Let it go. Let it go. It's a time to let it go, right? So there's a time to keep, and then there's a time to throw away. Get rid of it. There's a time to tear and a time to mend. A time to be quiet. A time to speak. When the police pull you over, that's time to be quiet. No sense in popping off, running off at the mouth, thinking you're this, that, and the third. Let your lawyer talk. Keep your mouth shut. Shut. Right? Husband arguing with his wife. It's better to be quiet. Just if your wife ever uses this phrase, pick your next words wisely. Do yourself a favor just to stop. Just stop. It's not worth it. It's a warning. It's a warning. She's not done, but she's close. You don't want her to be done, because once she's done, then they're done. Done means done. It's like a glass, and you drop the glass and it's broken. It's broken. It's not going. You can't put it back together. You can't unbreak it. It's ruined. That's a warning that you're about to break the glass. Don't break the glass. All right. Time to be quiet. But then there's a time to speak. There's time to speak. There's a time to speak up. There's a time to love and a time to hate. A time for war and a time for peace. I'm not here to say necessarily when these times are, but know that there are times for all of these things. What do people get for all their hard work? What do people really get for all their hard work? I have seen the burden God has placed on us all. Yet God has made everything beautiful in its own time. He has planted eternity in the human heart. But even so, people can't or cannot see the whole scope of God's work from beginning to end. So I concluded there is nothing better than to be happy and enjoy our lives as long as we can. And people should eat and drink and enjoy the fruits of their labor, for these are gifts from God. Verse 14, Ecclesiastes chapter 3. And I know whatever God does is final. Nothing can be added to it or taken from it. God's purpose is that people should fear him. Right? That's the conclusion of the matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. It's stunning how people these days have no fear of God whatsoever. I'm coming close to a conclusion that renders folk have been given over to reprobate mind. I by default figure that no one has been given over to a reprobate mind. But the more you think about it, the more you search, the more you see how people behave in light of God, right? God, the idea, the notion that they have been given over to a reprobate mind because they don't retain God in their mind, in their thoughts. So, it seems like maybe 7 out of 10 are gone. No fear of God whatsoever. Which means that a lot of folk have a form of godliness, but they deny the power thereof. It's like when we were going over Revelation in the Laodicean church. I would that ye were hot or cold, but because thou art lukewarm, neither hot nor cold, he spew you out his mouth, right? He says, I would that ye would be hot or cold. But they're not. They're lukewarm. So he literally forcefully ejects them out of his stomach. Say they're rich. They don't need God. They got money. They got access to stuff. They don't need God. And that's kind of where people are these days. Look at how people value human life. There's a huge dilemma because we know how much God values human life. How do we know this? Because of the earthly manifestation of the Godhead bodily, aka Jesus. Right? The word, the logos of God puts on a tent of human flesh for the specific purpose of redeeming fallen man. Right? For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. So God loves humanity enough to himself pay the price for humanity's redemption. That's love. When the world hated him, he died on the cross of Calvary to pay the price to redeem fallen man. Yet many people who claim to love God hate people and have no respect for human life. War is either all the way wrong or it's not wrong at all. It can't be okay for these people to be at war, killing folk, and these people are wrong for, being at war. So like if two people or two states or two nations are at war with each other, I would contend that both of them are wrong. There's a lot of people who would contend, well, these people are right and these people are wrong. And there's a lot of people who would say, well, these people are right and these people are wrong. God died for everybody, right? Jesus went to the cross of Calvary to pay the price for all of these people. Now, in order for redemption to happen, all of these people have to turn from their wicked ways to him. If you consider that human beings are fashioned in God's image, let us make man in our image. So to kill another human being is a grave offense to God. Grave, great, horrible. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not murder. Right? Thou shalt not murder. Look it up. Right, so I'm just saying. See, these kinds of dilemmas, these conundrums, are really a lot of proof that we need to be redeemed. Humanity is in a terrible state. All of it. There's none here righteous and just. I don't care how noble you believe your cause is. All have sinned and come short of the glory of God. There are none that are righteous. No, not one. So with all of the travail, with all of the things that are heaped upon humanity, the teacher here, Solomon, suggests that our purpose should be to fear God and enjoy that which he allows us to have access to. I know that whatever God does is final. Nothing can be added to it or taken from it. God's purpose is that people should fear him. What is happening now has happened before. And what will happen in the future has happened before. Because God makes the same things happen over and over again. Baby's born, baby crawls, baby toddles, baby walks, baby rides bike, baby gets a car. Baby's no longer a baby, baby has baby, next thing you know, there's husband, wife, they have a baby. They get old, they die, and the process continues over and over and over again. So people say, well, you would think that we would learn by now what works and what doesn't work. Well, every baby must learn how to crawl before they walk. I just believe that that's the cycle of humanity. You're born and you go through things, but people don't get old enough to actually gain from the wisdom of their years. Even at 106 years old, at 110, people die as infants when it comes to the wisdom that could be acquired. Imagine if you lived to be 900 years old. I think that if human beings lived to be 900 years old, war would go away. Because the 300-year-older would say the foolishness of this. Knock it off. No one ever wins in a war. Imagine if people lived to be 300 years old. The wisdom that would be acquired from all those people 300 years old. All right? People enslave people over and over and over again. There's a better way to create and build things than through slavery. There's a better way to economic riches other than enslaving people. But, greed, avarice, selfishness. I think a lot of these things in time would naturally die out because people would have learned. There would be best practices, policies, procedures of what works, what doesn't work. They think back on times when there was the great opportunists that came around and made money by holding back wisdom from everyone. And then their time came when they realized how silly this was and how much it impacts the global situation. And they just stopped and went on and found a better way. But those people we don't live long enough to benefit from that kind of wisdom. So people continually start over. And so there's a natural process that you go through no matter who you are on planet Earth, where you born and then you move through. You can build on some of the technological advances that we have to make things better, but the same stupid basic mistakes we make over and over again. So there's nothing new under the sun. Nothing new. That's not my opinion. That's what the word says. It's nothing new. Nothing new. We had like a second renaissance of the civil rights movement. There'll be a third, a fourth, and a fifth should the Lord tarry and we move on long enough. It'll be like every 40 to 60 years, there will be another rights movement from those that are oppressed by oppressors. It's the same thing, goes over and over and over and over again. There's nothing new under the sun. Nothing. That's what it says. God makes the same things happen over and over again. So that means there's a natural course to the human existence. A natural course. I also noticed that under the sun, there is evil in the courtroom. Yes, even the courts are corrupt. Well, we know that for years. There's a lot of people who think that the courts are somehow above reproach. In theory, we would like for them to be above reproach, but the courts are populated with human beings that are frail and flawed. Right? So the moral turpitude right? I like that phrase. I was going to digress and ask the artificial intelligence, but she'll give me a hard time. I know she will. You want to ask somebody something, you ask. You go to the source, right? The source of all modern wisdom and knowledge is Google, right? Define moral turpitude. Talk. Moral turpitude is a legal term that refers to an act or behavior that is immoral, unethical, or unjust, and that violates a community standard. Moral turpitude. Right? The courts the people that sit in the courtrooms are no better than the guy who sits on the back of a dump truck picking up junk. They're people. One guy is a guy whose business is collecting junk. Other guy's job is to interpret the law, and that's it. That don't make him better than anybody. Right? So to suggest that the people that sit in the courtrooms are somehow not corrupt is absurd. Particularly since here in the United States, the court is the third branch of government. If the legislative branch is corrupt and the executive branch is corrupt, why would anyone even remotely think or believe that the court is not? It's all the government. They're just different branches. It's like my right arm is never, ever, ever, ever going to have the anatomy in terms of sameness as my left. Like the left hand and the right hand, they're both hands, they both have thumbs, but they're built differently. See, this thumb is on this side of the hand, and this one's on the hands are. That's a right hand versus a left hand. They're very distinct, but they're all part of Stan's body, right? Surprise! This hand's not gonna slap you, but this hand will, right? Because they both under the auspices of Stan's brain. The court is corrupt. I also noticed that under the sun there is evil in the courtroom. Yes, even the courts of law are corrupt. I seen a judge yell obscenities out the window of his car at a lowly constituent. Right around the block 3 times to cuss him out. Saying the same thing all 3 times. Judge! A judge! Oh, please. I noticed that under the sun there is evil in the courtroom. Yes, even the courts of law are corrupt. Why? Because they're people. I said to myself, in due season, God will judge everyone, both good and bad, for all their deeds. I also thought about the human condition, how God proves to people that they are like animals. For people and animals share the same fate. Both breathe and both must die. So people have no real advantage over the animals. How meaningless. Both go to the same place they came from. Dust, and they shall return to dust. For who can prove that the human spirit goes up and the spirit of animals goes down into the earth? One thing is for certain, there are animal-looking creatures in heaven. I don't know. I don't have the wisdom, the wit, the intelligence, the insight, the foresight to know what happens to animals. I don't know. I don't know. I know what happens to human beings because the Bible tells us clearly. Right? But one thing is certain, both die. And so the real value of our lives is not determined by how much wealth you have in hand or what position you have in life, or whether there's a time of war or a time of life, a time to be born, a time to die. All these things happen. Your labor, the sum total of your experiences. How does it profit you in that which matters most? Living. Right? The number one course of the day is staying alive. Right? How do you stay alive? Survival. I mean, that is the number one thing most people have on their mind, is surviving. How will I survive? How am I going to make it to the end of the day, the end of the week, the end of the month, end of the year? Will I make it through my retirement time with the money I have saved, or will it be evaporated and I wind up penniless, homeless, living in a container box? So if the standard of the quality of your existence is you being alive, what difference is it between you and the dog or the cow? Animals. They both go to the same place. Right? Because the things you get in life are they're here today, gone tomorrow. They're here today, gone in 10 years. Right? One day you got mansions on each coast. You having all kinds of wild parties. Did you do videotaping folk? And then the next day you living in a jail cell. Not because of the things you were doing, but apparently you must have done something to make people upset with you, because you've been getting away with this for decades. It's not like something like nobody knew. It's like the judges that sit on the bench and are feckless, incompetent, and rogue, right? What difference does it make? The difference is that they're sitting in a position of power. It's very difficult to challenge them, and they're surrounded by sycophants that will protect them at all costs because they are part of a corrupt system. Until they do something somebody doesn't like, and now they're on the outside looking in. That's corruption. That's corruption. One day you're here, the next day you're there. And nothing new. See, this is why the teacher concludes that the whole duty of man is to fear God and keep his commandments. See, we get things twisted. We are caught up in things that don't matter a hill of beans. So I saw that there is nothing better for people than to be happy in their work. That is why we are here. No one will bring us back from death to enjoy life after we die. Chapter 3. Some practical insight to life on planet Earth when one gives oneself to know wisdom, madness, folly, right? He explored all of this. Solomon explored all of this so that he might know Like, what is there in life? He had the wealth, the power, the position to do all these things. And now he is sharing these things with us so that we can keep level and keep grounded and be concerned in that which really, really matters. In what really matters. You know, we got a big election coming up. People are all bent out of shape. They're all on edge, on pins and needles. And oh my goodness, I know so many people that are they're beside themselves with anxiety, this, that, and the third. I would contend that if one's truly, truly interested in things of a political nature, that you should be actively engaged and involved in your local, municipal political system. Because those are the people that set the prices of your parking tickets, what streets get plowed in the wintertime, when trash gets picked up, how much school lunch is going to be, what time the school's going to open, what the holidays at your school are, your Board of Education. That's probably the single most important election within a city is for the Board of Education members, and most people don't even know who the Board of Education people are. In my city, they control half of the city's budget. They're a body politic and an entity that's separate from the municipal side of the city on purpose so that they don't become overly politicized. The lowest turnout is for Board of Ed. Imagine that. Yet people are concerned about the president, who for the most part doesn't really affect you in ways that matter. We'll continue this tomorrow. Listen to the words of the song that Brother Silver Sargent sings. God bless you. We'll see you tomorrow night. Handwritings on the wall. Hope you're paying attention.
Secretary of the State, Stephanie Thomas. Did you know this is a historic election year? Sure, we'll be voting for president, but for the first time ever in Connecticut, we have early voting. Under the new law, you'll be able to vote in person for 14 days before Election Day. You can have your say, your day, including nights and weekends. But there's more for us to do after the election because our policies are not written on Election Day. Whether it's working for election reform, sharing your policy ideas with the legislature, or choosing candidates, the power is with the people. And until we all believe this, it's very easy to feel like our votes don't matter. So please make your voice heard in every election. And then remember, our civic obligations don't end once we cast our ballots. We need to continue our civic engagement every day of the year. And if you don't know where to begin, we've got you covered. Visit our website at civics101.ct.gov for information about early voting and how to stay civically engaged all year long. The power is in your hands, and I can't wait to see how you use it.
Let's talk about in-person early voting. Early voting is a new option in our state starting in 2024. Using it will look and feel a lot like voting in person on election day, but you may need to go to a different location than your usual polling place. The number of days of early voting varies depending on the type of election. Primary elections generally have fewer days of early voting. Every early voting period has at least one weekend when you can vote and one weekday when you can vote in the evening. When you arrive at the early voting location, you will check in and be verified as an eligible voter. You will receive your ballot with an envelope and be directed to a private space. You will seal your complete ballot inside the envelope and place it in a receptacle. Envelopes will remain unopened until Election Day, when they will be counted with other